Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. My name is Rufus Kamau, Market Analyst at FX Pesa. So, welcome to a new week. We'll be going through some of the major news that we're expecting in the markets this week. And this includes the US inflation data. And then, once we cover these, we'll know what items to focus on and where to be looking for opportunities. So let's get started. We'll be starting with the economic calendar. So from the Forex Factory website, as you can see, we are starting Monday on a bank holiday. So nothing much was expected. So then German factory orders down 5.8% in the previous month. This is a big surprise compared to the expectation of 1.9% and the previous reading of 3.9%. So we don't have any major news happening today. We'll be having two Fed members speaking in the afternoon. This is a Fed member Bauman at 8 p.m., then Fed member Kashkari at 8:50 p.m. So fast forward to Tuesday, we'll be looking at the monetary policy meeting minutes from Australia at 3:30 a.m. Then we get trade balance data from Canada at 3:30 p.m. Then fast forward to Wednesday. This is when we'll be looking at a major central bank decision. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand is expected to cut rates by a whopping 50 basis points from 5.25% down to 4.75%. So these might as well be the most volatile asset for the week. Then we get the FOMC meeting minutes. This will be at 9 p.m. on Wednesday. Fast forward to Thursday, we'll be looking at the US Consumer Price Index or CPI, which is a measure of inflation and is expected to drop to 2.3%, down from the previous reading of 2.5%. So this will be the biggest news for the US dollar traders. It's expected to influence the direction of the dollar. So remember last Friday, the non-farm payrolls coming in higher than expected, with upwards revisions indicated that the labor market is healing. We saw the unemployment rate in the US dropping to 4.1%. And after we saw this, we saw the strong rally in the dollar. So that rally could be sustained by CPI continuing to drop towards the 2% target. So if it happens to drop to, let's say, 2.3 or anything close to 2.0%, then that will cement the Fed position that it might continue holding rates higher, and that's positive for the dollar. However, any surprising uptick in inflation will be a key challenge, and that might lead to a much weaker dollar. So we'll get the monetary policy report hearings at on Thursday. The time is tentative. That will be important for the UK, especially considering that we are converging towards the fiscal and monetary policy, where from the fiscal side, the UK is set to announce its annual budget on the 30th of this month. So on Friday, we will get GDP data from the UK early in the morning at 9 a.m. Then we get Canadian employment data at 3:30 p.m. Then US core producer price index still at 3:30 p.m. And the week will end with a couple of speeches from Fed members, as well as the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey. So FOMC member Lohan, as well as FOMC member Bauman, will be speaking towards the end of the week. So that's not the only news that we're expecting. The earnings season is back, and this week we might be having some good earnings coming in. So for instance, from Tuesday, we'll be getting Pepsi company reporting its earnings. So then no noteworthy earnings on Wednesday. But fast forward to Thursday, this is when we get earnings from Delta Airlines, Domino's Pizza, Neogen, and Tire. Once we go through that, then Friday is the big day for the earnings or stock market traders, with the banking sector having a majority of the reports. Spotlight is JP Morgan Chase, which will be reporting on Thursday. So we'll be also getting earnings from BlackRock, Bank of New York Mellon, First Tunnel, as well as Wells Fargo. So it's quite an action-packed week, and with the earnings season back on, we expect more volatility, especially in US equity indices. So besides that, some of the highlights in the markets this morning include the following. One, German factory orders fall more than expected. This is a major news, especially considering the news we saw last month of, in this case, Volkswagen Group closing some of its factories and massive firing in the company. And now seeing German factory orders fall, these might show the stretch that the economy is going through. So European shares lack direction. Of course, it's a Monday, slow, lackluster movement. UK house prices rise the most since 2022. Of course, housing prices are bound to continue rising, especially in tightening monetary policy. So Thailand inflation rate rises, but below forecasts. Brent eases after a sharp rise. Australia MI inflation gauge stays subdued, and Japanese shares rally as yen weakens. So those are the key highlights of the day. And can you give me a sec? Thank you for your patience. So I'm looking at the comment section. Morning, Robert Kovale, Brian Keyanjui, Wangari Patrick, Elvis. Thank you guys for joining. Willie Bet, as well as Ronisa Jack. Thank you guys for joining. So let's take it up to the favorite part. And as usual, I would like to issue a disclaimer that this session is not investment advice. It's not a recommendation to trade, so you should always do your own due diligence. So, morning, Humphrey. Morning, Ann Siko. Thank you for joining. So, let's take it on with what's happening on the charts. So the chart we are looking at is the dollar index, which made a very big rally last week. So if you look at the price action last week, the market opened here and ended all the way up. So this was a big rally in the dollar index, and the final push was supported by the non-farm payrolls data. The dollar continued to strengthen. So now we start a new week, and the dollar is not making much of a movement. As we have seen, the major news for the dollar will probably be the CPI news coming in later in the week. So that's one key thing to consider, that there is not much movement in the dollar today. So market seems to be quite slow. So now looking at the major pairs, we know that for Euro USD, there was a consistent drop in the euro versus the dollar. So as the dollar was strengthening, in this case, it was majorly strengthening against the euro. So for the past 1 week, this is how it went, and the market had opened here for the week. So clearly, a very strong bearish momentum. And looking at the market performance since open, it seems to be more in a range, a market that is just moving sideways. So we don't have much going on in Euro USD right now. However, if you, on the other hand, turn to the daily time frame, and you can see the daily time frame here, it's very clear that the Euro USD has had 6 consecutive days of bearish momentum. So if anything, or if you are to bet on that, then there's a strong likelihood that this is a complete swing and we continue seeing some further bearish momentum. So there are key price levels that have been hit before, and we could be seeing the Euro USD going for the next support area. So potentially we could be seeing an extension of the bearish momentum towards the 1.09395 price action level without expecting much volatility on a Monday. Pound USD also had a big sell-off for 5 straight days. It was on a bearish momentum. Then an indecision candlestick on Friday. So today being Monday, what we are basically looking at is a market that doesn't have a lot of volatility in it. So it sees more of a sideways momentum. So you can see how the market opened, went up, and then down, up, down, up. Nothing much happening on pound USD. So pound yen, clearly a very strong swing here. So after retesting this previous high, you can see the market now making a turn. And of course, now we seem to be having a trend line on the lower side, where the market is now forming some form of higher lows. So we should be expecting to see some further downside momentum. Potentially, this could be the trade of the day, looking at this rejection of this area here, and the market having some good momentum downwards. AUD USD struggling as we had expected to break this area here. So there seems to be some nice support around this area here. So for now, it doesn't seem to be doing much. It's just moving sideways. So I would prefer to track these consolidations and wait for their breakouts, perhaps later in the day or maybe even tomorrow. So USDN making some nice reversal. So didn't quite get to the target we were expecting, but got pretty close, 149.368. And now starting a new week, you can see the market pulling back, and the expectation is that the yen strengthens towards 147.206. So the Nikkei 225 index managed to form another high here. Immediately after hitting this high, you can see the rejection and how the price has moved further back downwards, which means that we might still be looking at this with a slight breakout, but of course, there are key levels that may act as support. So now, as we see the reversal here, the potential for the market dropping to 38,651 is quite likely. For gold, it's now more of a sideways project or sideways momentum. So I would say if you eliminate all this, just want to clarify some price action here. Yes, I think it's in order to say that this is sideways momentum and that the overall price action here for gold, and this is for the last 7 or 8 days or so, this has been the overall momentum in gold. So in this case, looking at the current price action today, it makes more sense to be expecting price to remain within that range. So from the 1 hour chart, if I zoom in here, I don't expect the price to be breaking Friday's high as well as Friday's low. So it's more of a sideways momentum within those limits. So the most interesting asset of the day is Brent oil, which made quite a strong rally last week. And now with the escalation of the war happening in the Middle East, it threatens the supply of oil, which is basically bullish for oil markets. So despite US ramping up its storage or what we call crude oil inventories, what we are seeing in Brent oil is a miracle turnover. Remember, we were on a strong bearish momentum, and now since the bottom that we saw here, and this was just the 10th, 1st of October, and now we are just on 7th, and we have completely broken the upper trend line, and there is a good chance we continue seeing higher prices. So now that we have cleared this resistance here, we have also cleared here. The next potential area is around this area here, or even higher around this area. So you can see the confluence or the number of times the market has faced rejection at that area here. And now that price has covered the pullback here, notice the pullback at the close of the market on Friday, the gap, and the market has crossed the gap, then there's a good chance that we continue seeing an extension of this momentum, potentially getting to $81.595 per barrel. So US Tech 100 still showing some weakness, even after the strong rally on Friday. It hasn't went ahead and formed a new high. So I think there's still some bearishness weighing heavily on the markets. And now you can see that attempts to move higher are being met with resistance. So this area here, the market could not break. And now it seems to be pulling back downwards. So we could be seeing some activity around this price action area. So nothing much of volatility is expected on a Monday, but perhaps a drop this area for the Nasdaq, that is 19,862. So US30, we can all completely agree now that this has been more of a sideshow. Market just moving sideways, despite the attempt to form a new all-time high, which was successful here. Since then, the market has just been moving sideways, and now we just switched from the upper trend line, and we could be seeing the market head into this lower trend line, unless there is something new fueling the markets. So SP 500 seems to be quite similar with the Nasdaq, even though we can say the same for the SP 500 too. So if you do this and then you observe the movements here, the overall price action has been sideways. So I think this is the one time when a lot of markets are consolidating, and as a result of that, it means that new opportunities are coming up later in the week when we see some of these markets breaking out and forming completely new trends. So BTC, on the other hand, had some good momentum upwards, topped at 66.5, pulled back, found support at 60,000, and now it's back to 63,600. So in this case, after the Sunday rally and now Monday, you can see the market is still pushing higher. Then the overall expectation is that we continue seeing bullish momentum towards 64,763. So here is a classic flag. So here you just observe when the market breaks out. So this is the dollar trading against the Swiss franc. For those who don't know the pattern, it starts with an almost upright movement, which we call the flagpole. Then we have the flag here, a sequence of lows that are getting lower, highs that are getting lower, and eventually the market will break out of the flag in one direction either way, and that will be the direction of the trade. So New Zealand USD making some further bearish momentum. So in this case, clearly this level is very important, and it seems like the market is gunning for that level. So after the pullback that we saw here, notice how the market has come back immediately, and potentially could be seeing an extension to 0.61140. So USD CAD continues with a bullish momentum. But now, looking at the oil prices and how they are performing, it's likely that we will be seeing the Canadian dollar now beginning to strengthen against the US dollar. So let's observe some of these conference levels here. So the market might actually change direction from here. And if it happens to break and trade higher, there are more levels that seem to be having some resistance. So pound CAD is bouncing as we had expected from the lower trend line. So having hit this area last week, notice how it bounced on Thursday. On Friday, went back, retested, and now on Monday, we are seeing something similar. So if you zoom out here and you go to the 4-hour chart, then it's a clear-cut trend that the market has been using this trend line as a bouncing area. So every time we get to this area, we get buyers coming in, and this is no different for pound CAD. So we already bounced on the lower trend line, and then on the 1-hour chart, this is how it looks like. on the 15 minutes chart, this is where it gets interesting because the market is still trading in a triangle, meaning that from Friday's price action and today's, this is the overall direction, and potentially we'll be having a break. So let's keep this on the lookout. If the market happens to break, then we could be looking at good trading opportunities either today or tomorrow, but potentially that break is coming. So checking on the comment section, what are you expecting in USDN? So the yen is currently quite a volatile and strong currency. So in this case, for the yen, and we have already covered this, is a reversal of the bullish momentum we experienced last week. So for USDN, I'm expecting the price to drop to 147.206. So does break and retest strategy work even in currencies? This is a good question. Break, retest, I don't think it's a strategy. Yes, some people might use it as a strategy, but it's normally a market feature, especially when you're looking for good entries. You know that sometimes when the market breaks out, it may come back for a retest, which confirms your earlier position. So in this case, breakout retest is more of a market feature than a trading strategy. But yes, it works in currencies as well as other markets such as indices. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for your time. I hope to see you on the next one. So as I mentioned, for the overall trend on the dollar today, it seems to be sideways, and this might be so for the better part of the week. And once we get CPI, then could get a new overall dollar trend. So lower than expected CPI should be bullish for the dollar. And in this case, if we get an uptick in US inflation, then in that case, the dollar will be strong. Lower than expected inflation report should be negative for the US dollar. So I'd like to announce that we will be having a Trading Titans event. We will be sharing the links on our social media handles. So make sure to check them out and register for the event. Hopefully, we will be having one very productive event. So also remember to check out the newest episode of the Bullish Banter podcast. It's available on YouTube as well as Spotify and any other leading podcast platforms. And make sure to check it out. I'm sure that there is some good discussions in there for you. So thank you very much, guys, and I hope to see you on the next session.